Welcome, flip clock fans. Today we've got a different kind of video. We're going to talk about some restoration of a Caslon 201, but I'm going to show you some things that can go wrong, and sometimes terribly wrong. This is a clock we got off of eBay. It was already broken, but you can see I've got a band-aid there because I actually got cut on this clock right before I started filming, and that was the first problem of many. But what we've got here, you can see this tile. Someone's obviously replaced this one tile with a very, very yellow tile. And I used to come up, to take these off, I used to come up from the back side, that direction. But on these, when you do that, it tends to break the tabs. So what I've found is you need to come from this direction with the tile upwards and then push up from the bottom and up and snap. And I don't know if because this tile is so yellowed is why it's so brittle. I've never seen one do that before. But again, I was going to replace that anyway. And I just want to show you here. This is another clock I'm using for parts. I want to show you that it can be done. So on these clocks, you come up from this direction, you bow it in the middle like that, and it does work. It works just fine, and you want to do the reverse going in. Always feed in one side first and then bow it, and then you go. So that's how I'm going to replace that missing tile over there. I still can't believe it did that. Anyway, so what I'm doing here is you can see how blackened that bulb is. We're going to work on that, but before I do that, I had talked in a previous video about this bezel, how they've put there's these tabs and they've turned them about a quarter turn to secure them in the clock. This will give me an opportunity to test. I figured if you just unturn these, pull that bezel right off, and you could, in this case, this bezel's in really nice shape, but many minutes later, I'm still struggling to get this off. And so I've tried to find many ways to get this off without warping this thing, without tearing something up. I realize here now, if I'm trying to get this off a clock that already has a good piece of glass, I can't go in like this. If I do that, I'm going to tear it up. So I've got to find another way. So I'm going to try to push from this side, and I spend quite a bit of time. I grab it with the pliers, I push and push. I come from this side and gently pry. But what I'm seeing here is I'm putting a lot of pressure on that case, and I don't know how much that can take, and later you'll see why this could be a problem. So anyway, what ends up happening is I spend quite a bit of time and eventually get it out. There's some warpage on it, but I have already spent some time working on it, and I eventually will get this fairly straight and true, and it's going to be able to be reused. But man, I don't know if I want to do that again. It was that hard. So we're going to turn back to this bulb here. Now, this sleeving here is, if you've ever worked with that, if I try to straighten that out or move it, it's going to break. It's brittle. It's so what I'm going to use here is, you could use a heat gun, but why bother with that when you got your wife's hairdryer? Oh boy, there goes those parts. I'll need those later. But anyway, what I'm doing is here, get this real hot. This is a fiberglass sleeving that's impregnated with varnish, and you spend some time with this, get it really warmed up, and try not to burn yourself. And what you're going to find out is it makes it pretty pliable. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm going to replace this bulb. I'm trying to keep it look completely original. And there's a reason for that, and you'll find that out later in the video, why I'm want to get that so original. And you might say, well, take it off from the back, take those connectors off, but I want those connectors to stay the same too. And again, you'll see later why that's so important to me. So what I do is I spend a lot of time working with that. It's like microsurgery. And it did take a while, but eventually I got it, and it turned out pretty good. And by this time, that tubing has already begun to stiffen up again. So as it's cooled down, it's gone back to its original feel there. This motor is doing pretty good. So this is a pretty good mechanism here for a little project that I'm in the middle of. Now, as a lot of you know, with some of these old flip clocks, you can take a kind of a whitened cabinet that's been yellowed and get it back to white. And there's always been a question as, well, what would that do to other plastics? And so this Caslon stuff, it's got hydrogen peroxide in it, and you can just smear that on stuff, and it'll whiten a white cabinet. But look here what it did to my clock. It took all the color off of it. It just turned this Caslon 201 into a ghost clock. I mean, it just took all the color off of it, and I don't know what to think about all that. So it's a catastrophe. Actually, I'm just messing with you. This is the clock we were working on a little bit ago. Sorry about that. It's not April Fool's Day. But anyway, I wanted to kind of introduce this to you. I was going to replace the bezel. This is where I wanted the clock to look original. That's why I wanted to, because you can see all the tubing. It's sort of a clock that allows you to kind of look and see what's going on. But you see these cracks here? Someone's torqued those screws down. And like I said, I was going to replace that bezel, but you can see this plastic's not the same kind of plastic the clock was originally made out of. And if I try to screw on with that bezel, I'm for sure going to destroy this clock. Not quite sure why this clock was made. I can't find in any advertisement of a transparent or clear model. So we're speculating that it is a salesman's model or a prototype or something. But in any event, you can see my light down here. But one thing you don't see is the Caslon. When I did put hydrogen peroxide on there. I wasn't kidding about that, to see if I could take some of the yellowing out, and it took my Caslon lettering off. So you want to try to avoid that. So this whole thing's been fraught with perils, but we survived it. We got us a nice looking transparent clock now. Well, thanks for taking the time.
When you get the time, come visit us at flipclockfans.com.